Greetings, fellow Armchair Imagineers. Blue Dragon 5 here.
And Jacob Weil.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my sad duty to report that the acclaimed manga writer and artist and creator extraordinaire, Akira Toriyama, has passed, and sadly, much as we all wish it were truly possible, we can't collect 7 magical balls to bring the man back. In his wake, there are a number of heroes created, loads of laughs, and generations of fans inspired by what this kid did. We're here to celebrate and commiserate over the life, legacy, and spirit of Akira Toriyama.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, very few words can describe the influence and impact he's had on the world as a whole.
It's incalculable. There's only one word for it: incalculable.
That you couldn't have said it better.
Yeah. Truly, the world's response to this has really, I gotta admit, it's so bittersweet because on one hand, I do love seeing everyone kind of come together and reflecting fondly on Toriyama's stuff, particularly all the Dragon Ball franchise, and it really puts it in perspective that it cannot be underestimated, undervalued the reach and cultural phenomenon that the Dragon Ball franchise has. One of the it's one of the, if not the definitive anime of all time. It particularly stateside. It's like the big dubbed anime. It is like the big that has like so much reach. And when Toriyama passed, as I think we've come to learn this month, just shockingly, the world has kind of, if not stopped, it's like slowed for a moment of silence for the man to pay tribute to him. I'm seeing tribute artwork all over the place. I'm seeing creators left and right, just doing this, like Toonami. They're doing Dragon Ball Marathon as they should, and it's amazing.
Like, not to mention if you've seen the gatherings in Latin and places like Latin America, and even
Mhm.
the MMOs have them doing the spirit ball pose in honor of him.
Yeah, Spirit Bomb. Yeah,
Spirit Bomb. We actually have a comment here. Hi, from Kogias. Akira Toriyama is one of the most influential people in the history of both manga and anime.
without question. So I mean, I've I think I probably mentioned this to you in private, but I'll say just for posterity here. His death really hit me in a weird place because I got this belated Christmas gift in February. Would have been January, but I was trying to have a get together with some friends, and the friend who basically was going to bestow this upon me was not there in January. He was there in February, hence the delay. Point being, last year I got the Kakarot, the Dragon Ball Z Kakarot game, which basically the main reason I got is for the DLC in which you get to play essentially the last arc of Dragon Ball. You get to do the last the third of the World Martial Arts Tournament. So that was for me. That was the big sell. Like, okay, I played the Tenkaichi Budokai game, but this is the I need, it's the idea I can be in Dragon Ball, the original one, somewhat. I need that, and I got that. And basically, in playing that and then playing the rest of the game, he really is essentially, it's the greatest hits. It's the core story. You get to basically re-experience all of Dragon Ball in a really kind of fun way. Anyway, so I've just been really thinking that it really kind of sparked getting myself reinvested in the animes I grew up with. And because of this, I like a friend of mine said, "Hey, what do you want for Christmas?" Oh, I would love the original Dragon Ball series because you don't have to worry about all sorts of different versions and different cuts. Because the original one is just, if you get the uncut version of the original Dragon Ball series, it's like 5 seasons and then you're done, pure and simple. I got that. Been rewatching through it since February, and I'm on like season 3, top of March, and this horrible news comes in. It's just like, oh my god, no.
Yeah, and I remember I dropped it when you were doing the Return of the Joker podcast.
Yeah.
So, like I said, Dragon, I was in a bit of a shock. I thought both thought you were done with it, I thought you were doing it earlier or winding down and wouldn't see it until after the podcast was over, but I wanted to get the news as soon as possible.
Yeah, so like I'm watching through that, and then serendipitously, like I'm just doing other things completely not even thinking about it, just having like nothing but fun Toriyama memories, and then it's like, oh hey, look over here, death. It's like what?
Well, sorry, Dragon, I didn't mean to bring it down like that.
Yeah, like I'm at like the zenith of Batcave, of Batcave Beyond, and I'm here. Hey, death of a beloved childhood icon of yours.
Well, I didn't mean anything.
I know that. I know that. I'm just saying it's just it's very sad turn of events. Like sometimes that seesaw of happiness in life. You're at the high of highs, and then crushing reality.
I know it was poor timing, but like I said, I just learned that myself, like seconds before I sent it to you. So
Exactly.
and the thing is, like that was only like he technically died on the 1st of this month, but the world didn't find out. The rest of the world didn't find out until literally a week later on the 8th.
Yeah.
It's like so. I was like when I found out, I was like when I first saw something, I was like scrolling and I was like okay, that's like. I saw some trivia. I was like, okay, that's nice. And then I read, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
It's like,
so Toriyama's such a monolith. It takes him 7 extra days to die.
If only, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this has only proved that he's all too human like the rest of us.
Yeah, it's a shame. The man had a creative energy like a Saiyan, but sadly, not the revivable constitution.
Unfortunately, not.
So, Jay, what is your history with Mr. Toriyama?
Like, well, like I think like a lot of us growing up, I got Dragon Ball on Toonami when it was during the era with the first Tom. It was either the first or second Tom. I'm not sure.
Yeah, well, the first Tom was brutally murdered. So
I mean, I don't know if I ever watched that
off screen. He was brutally murdered off screen, but he was brutally murdered.
Yeah. A lot of pleasant topics tonight.
Yeah.
But fortunately, Tom was fictional, and he eventually was able to come back himself.
And we still got Steve Blum, so we're all good.
Yes, of course. Yeah. Like many of us probably got caught it on Toonami. Of course, it was like in the middle of an arc. I want to say probably the Cell arc, but I'm not entirely sure.
The Cell sounds right.
But so I basically had no idea what was going on.
Yep.
But and it was like I was like, okay, I've seen Dragon Ball. I didn't really pay much heed to it when I was younger, but I do remember seeing it because I watched Toonami I did see other things on Toonami, and Dragon Ball was obviously one of those things. It wasn't until many years later when I got reintroduced to anime when I went to college that I actually started going through and watching all of these different shows, and Dragon Ball was one of them. I mean, considering there's more the one I was more familiar with, I started with Z, but I went with Kai. I started with the Kai, which I believe I don't think it was I think I streamed it somewhere. I can't remember where, but obviously. I loved it, loved the characters, loved the artwork, and I started watching a recut version of the original Dragon Ball series and I've gotten to it, and unfortunately I have not finished that like Dragon has. I only got to the end of the first arc after the first wish was made.
Yep.
So, but and I have seen pretty much all of the new movies except for Superhero. Like I did actually manage to see Broly, the new Broly movie in theaters, which is cool. And I've got quite a and I've actually met a couple of the voice actors. Like I actually did meet Christopher Sabat, for example. I got and went to a couple of his seminars when I went to the cons. Obviously, also met Monica Rial, the voice of Bulma. So I've had quite an interesting history. I've had quite a. So I haven't had hasn't shaped as much of my life as Dragon has, but I have developed an appreciation for it. Not gonna lie.
Yep.
So Dragon, now that my brief history with Dragon Ball's out of the way, why don't you dig in?
Yeah. So for me, of course, growing up, I had Batman the Animated Series very fondly. However, there was there was a break from Batman the animated series for me very briefly, where I had seen I'd been watching it as it was airing in repeats on Cartoon Network, and at a certain point they just kind of stopped, and I only had like I think I had maybe I think it was a VHS of the original, basically what would be the equivalent to the first disc of the DVD set, the first 8 episodes, and Phantasm and Sub Zero. So it's essentially I had 3 tapes of Batman the animated series. Essentially, that's all I had access to.
Quick question: were they things you recorded, or were they actual tapes?
Well, that's the thing. For the life of me, I mean, it's like it was like the full. It was like the full 8 episodes. So
Like officially released by Warner Brothers.
I think so. I think so. But for the life of me, I don't remember there being a. There is the slightest chance that I watched that tape so much, and I possibly got it from either I somehow I taped it, or I basically watched that a tape rented from the library so much that I memorized it so ridiculously thoroughly that I thought I had the tape. I just remember rewatching that tape so much. So in terms of those first 8 episodes, basically, I believe from the last episode was either POV or Underdwellers. It was a 7 or 8 episodes, whatever the first breakdown was. Anyway, one of the first volumes when they used to release them separately before they had the full DVD set, and that's how I got my hands on along with the 2 movies. Anyway, my point is that's all I had until roughly at earliest 2006 or a little after '06 when they started releasing the full DVD sets with the full the complete seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a big gap in my life where I had basically Batman the Animated Series and Freakazoid, but again only as much as I could watch on Cartoon Network in that really great block. If you had Freakazoid and you had Batman, what filled that for me was the original Dragon Ball and Toonami.
And so it wasn't actually Z like was
No. It was Dragon Ball, and I was enamored by it. I was obsessed with it. Now that one I did legitimately tape on VHS every airing, so I could basically accumulate the episodes, and I could rewatch them. I got so upset once. I think I missed an airing or I missed part of an airing. It's just like no, they're in Pilaf's castle. No.
So that was like an important episode too.
Yeah, well, to be fair, it was like the pinball thing, so like it was a lot of stalling until the wish, but it still was like you didn't know that when you're watching it. You think, okay, they're about to make the wish, but
like next time on Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
Now, do you still have those tapes by any chance?
Possibly, but I've also taped a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh over the years, so I don't know if maybe that's kind of fallen by the wayside. And I have some of the class. I have like the Phantasm VHS, for example. I have that. That's like the legit VHS they released, but some of the taped VHSs, that's what I can't fully recall.
Well, I'm not really surprised you own a tape of Phantasm.
Yeah. Anyway, so the point being, so I watched through the original Dragon Ball, and I loved in terms of what aired. I probably saw until I want to see. Here's the thing, because I was also getting into the manga as I was watching it as well, because I was wrapped up in. I was wished. Here's the thing that always kills me: both Batman the Animated Series and Dragon Ball, pretty much all the shows of my youth that I'm obsessed with. The toys all the toys I wanted then did not exist, but now they're all over the place. That's what kills me, and to some extent, it's like, especially mainly for the Dragon Ball stuff, it's a little too late. I made my bed where I have a crippling weakness for all the Batman the Animated Series merchandise, where I kind of have to buy it.
Yeah,
but unfortunately, Dragon Ball kind of has to fall by the wayside, even though would have been probably safer because there's less of it out there. Anyway, I do try and buy selectively. Like, for example, I have like the Goku and his kind of the turtle kind of the turtle gi. He's flying on the Nimbus. I have at least one of those still. Like I did buy at my comic shop because it was like one of those things where like this is what I would have killed for as a kid. I got to have at least one of these. And I still have, I have the Dragon Ball Z figures and stuff. I had them stored away, not in the best of condition because they were well loved as a kid, but I got them.
Those things are big collector items now, probably.
Well, so, yes and no. You're half right. If they're in the package, then yes. Yeah. But yeah,
well, I'm sure even then some people still probably pay out the nose for them.
True. anyways, my point is I was ride or die for Dragon Ball when I was getting the manga. I think I was able to watch on Toonami before. Basically, I was thinking I was able to watch all the animes. I love, but only up to a certain point. Then they kind of stopped airing at a certain point within the season or within the arcs of their show. So I probably got up to almost the pretty much everything but the last martial arts tournament, which then I read in the manga. Then eventually down the line, I would be able to watch. But essentially, the whole thing when we introduced Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z in through the last season of Dragon Ball, like Piccolo Junior, that part I did not get to see animated. But
until much later.
yeah, until much later. And serendipitously, that's what kind of reinvigorated me back into where I'm at now. Where again, it's like, hey, here's the arc you weren't able to watch as a kid. Play it as a game.
It's kind of weird that they didn't actually air the whole thing.
Yeah, that's the weird thing. Sometimes they just kind of, in some cases they cut off randomly, or either that or somehow I lost touch. But I'm pretty sure a lot of these stopped. Like same with Yu Yu Hakusho. I would have kept watching Yu Yu Hakusho. I think it just stopped after the Dark Tournament.
Well, now the whole thing is also available on various forms of media, including Crunchyroll.
Yeah, Crunchyroll specifically, yes.
I mean, I'm sure there's probably a lot of DVD releases and movie releases as well. So
yeah. Anyway,
but Crunchyroll is has all of the episodes, and I think all of Super just dropped as well.
Right. So regardless, just Dragon Ball filled the void in my life where which I did not have Batman the animated series, and because of that, I will always be eternally grateful to Toriyama. I'm always gonna have a huge debt of gratitude to the man. Of course, after Dragon Ball, then I had Dragon Ball Z, and I was like the stupid, reluctant Dragon Ball fan in the room saying, it's not the same. It's never going to top this one. Then you're watching, like, oh man, this is basically, it kind of clicked eventually when you realize it's like Batman Beyond. It's the continuation.
The funny thing is that in Japan, technically, it all still is just Dragon Ball.
I looked into that, Jacob. I mean, the manga did add the Z and everything, so I don't know if that's
the manga added the Z for the arcs that were the anime became Z because it was supposed to be like the end of the arc when it was actually even though it actually ended up being a lot longer than the actual Dragon Ball series itself. Yeah. The manga itself remained titled Dragon Ball, but the manga in the United States was titled Z for that part onward.
Yeah.
At least that's what I've understood anyway. The Z is exclusively anime, at least in Japan.
Now, speaking of which, we have comments.
Yes, it's like earlier we have Batman the Animated Series. Usually tapes only had 2 episodes, and some of them had 4. Of course,
which kind of makes me think somehow maybe I was able to tape. I don't know how I was able to manage it because back then the whole VHS technology. Somehow maybe I was able to put the VHS tapes rented onto a VHS tape somehow. I don't know if that was even possible, but I remember it was more than 4, it was more than 2 episodes, and I think I could have sworn it was on 1 tape, but who knows?
Well, tapes can actually hold. Some tapes, depending on how you record them, can actually hold up to 8 hours. So.
Well, I know that, but I'm saying how do you transfer what's on a legit VHS tape to the taped video? That's the thing I'm wondering. But yeah,
I'm not sure. And of course, it's over 9,000.
It's over 9,000.
I can see their parachutes. They're okay. There were no parachutes in the original. People died, but in the dub, they pretended that nobody died.
Yeah.
I don't think that. I mean, keep in mind there have been a couple dubs for this show for both versions of Dragon Ball.
Yeah. So the Dragon Ball compared to Z was a lot simpler though. You had pretty much had 2 versions. You had the cut version where we cut out some of the racier stuff. And then you have the uncut, which it's never really been redubbed to death. Where Dragon Ball Z, you have a few versions of it, and then you have Kai factored in there.
Basically, the stuff that's currently available on Crunchyroll is the uncut dub version.
Yeah.
They even kept some of what people would probably call more questionable stuff in there.
Oh yeah.
Which we might get into if we ever decide to discuss the original series itself.
Yes.
But, so clearly, and it is kind of interesting, there's not much overlap between Dragon Ball and Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah, just in kind of the Cartoon Network airings, really.
Yeah, but it's kind of interesting, they're completely different styles, different tones. I mean, both obviously have elements of action in there. Z definitely has, but even though the original one is more of an adventure comedy kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of interesting how both of these kind of defined your childhood and everything, but they're completely different ends of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
But this goes to show the appeal that these characters have, and they've actually, if you think about it, they share a similar medium, start of the medium, considering mangas being Japanese comic books.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of which, I guess the transition a little bit here. So I think Toriyama the man, I think in many senses he paralleled the characters in the worlds that he told tale of here, where he very much paralleling his two flagship characters, Goku and Ariel. I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, because that's the thing. She has the idea is it's not Ariel, but you pronounce it spelling like Ari, like with an A in there. So anyway, basically, Ariel or Aurelia, it's essentially how you say her name, I think. Cause they mentioned it. She pops. She has a brief guest spot on the Dragon Ball series, so they do say her name, and I think that's what they called her.
She was that Dr. Slump.
Yes, and that's what so that's what I'm getting at. So, Toriyama, he was very much kind of a manga prodigy. So in that sense, his two flagship characters are young people brimming with potential, stronger than everyone they come across, and dazzling everyone, pushing the limits.
Yeah, Dragon Ball was not his first success.
That is true. There's some kind of more just kind of one like some more off the reservation ones, but the first big like in '77, that's when he really became successful. That's when he started, and then eventually he landed on Doctor Slump. Doctor Slump is where we get Aurelia and everything.
Yeah, and so over Japan, like it's published by. That's where he even got started with like Shueisha, who did eventually also published his next work, which ended up being Dragon Ball.
Yes. So also it's two major inspirations. So the Toriyama, just with his style and everything, what kind of took him where he went. He he loved, he was a big movie fan. He loved pop culture. He loved to put a lot of parodies and homages in the stuff that he did. Like there's like Star Wars was big for him when he was really getting into the manga, because again he really breaks through into the medium in '77 when he's like in his 20s. He's Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, Superman, Godzilla. They're all kind of factored in there as well. We have Gamera and everything.
The original, because a lot of people who started with Z don't actually realize that the original Dragon Ball series was more of a gag-driven comedy series.
That's the thing. It's kind of a fun mixture where Dr. Slump's all comedy with very like a hint of action, where Dragon Ball is far more of a balance of that. Or at the very least, here's the thing: Dragon Ball. If you look at the Dragon Ball series, it's kind of a progression where it starts off very much comedy to a mix of comedy action to then action, and then action with like drips of comedy in there, and then just like full action by the last arc, and then we go full action with Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah. Dragon Ball Z obviously still had a lot of comedic elements.
No, of course. I'm just saying, like I'm saying compare where Dragon Ball started.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah.
And so before we move on to that, what's your take on this?
Anime fan. Yeah, I would strongly disagree with that. I think Dragon Ball Evolution completely missed the mark. Even Toriyama said so.
Yeah, and even recently after his passing, one of the makers of the movie was like, sorry we messed up with that.
Yeah. See, the thing that really hurts me with Dragon Ball Evolution is that again, it's not like just simply Dragon Ball Z. No, it's Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
It's just the fact that here, let's just take that.
I've never even seen that movie, by the way.
I would not recommend it.
Have you actually seen it?
Yes, I have seen it.
Did you see
it? Of course, I've seen it.
Did you see it in theaters?
No, I didn't see it in theaters. I'm not stupid.
Okay, I was just checking. Yep, I haven't seen it either, and I have no desire to myself.
Yeah.
So the success on it's not an accurate depiction, but it's a fun film according to Kogias.
I mean, look, I will give you this, okay? Conceptually, to some degree, is like as like an offshoot, but not one as like, hey, we're doing bringing Dragon Ball, to the big screen. It's like, hey, as like an offshoot, what if we introduce Goku in like his high school years? Like, how does that story change? Like filtering him through like a different prism, you know. In that respect, it's like, I think it's an interesting thought experiment, but there's no movie there.
He does say Choyon Fat as Roshi was great casting.
Yeah, more or less. I mean, yeah, but he's not old enough though. It's the problem. He's not.
well, well, I mean, I guess if you're trying to go for someone who's as old as Roshi, they probably wouldn't be able to move as well as he does.
Mind you, I think with an adaptation of a comic, particularly something somewhat super heroic, but in general, even just the adaptation of something, verisimilitude. Okay, Donner philosophy. It's verisimilitude. That's what it's always about. That's what it should always be about. We're trying to match it. We're trying to capture the feeling and match it.
Well, at least in some cases, at least a certain run or certain era.
Yeah.
Because obviously with Superman, even with Superman, different runs are going to have different feelings.
Well, true, but still, like, you want to have it feel like the character, at least like kind of classically, like just like exude that who that character is.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So anyway, so Doctor Slump, big breakthrough success. I don't want to I don't want to undersell it. Doctor Slump was really huge because it was like this was like everyone taking notice of, man, this Toriyama guy is hysterical, and he's got a cute little style there. And by the way, so with his style, with the Aurelie character, um, one of Toriyama's biggest influences growing up was Astro Boy. He loved Astro Boy, and you can kind of tell, like, Ariel is basically a robotic girl character. Astro Boy. Yeah, you get it.
Well, to be fair, Osamu Tezuka basically influenced everybody.
Well, that's the thing, but it's kind of neat that Toriyama was very much. I mean, I'm saying you can see like Astro Boy in like his two flagship characters, like Kid Goku and Aurelie, in a sense. So I think that's kind of interesting. Apparently, he also really liked 101 Dalmatians in terms of the animation style. That's what I read somewhere.
Osamu Tezuka was heavily influenced by Disney as well.
Yes, that's the thing.
I think he specifically pointed out to like the Scrooge comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like so yeah, we have we have that to thank for like Osamu Tezuka and Osamu Tezuka to thank for pretty much everything else.
Mm-hmm.
It's like so, but yeah, I'm not as familiar with Doctor Slump as I am with Dragon Ball, but looking at the characters, I can actually see some of the influence from Astro Boy there.
I never watched the Doctor Slump show, but I did watch. I'm sorry, I did read the manga with Doctor Slump, at least a little bit of it.
It didn't run nearly as long though.
Well, yeah, but I think just because he moved on from there. I mean, it feels like he possibly could have kept going with Doctor Slump. I think he just wanted. I forget if he wanted to change or if something happened. I can't remember why he shifted from that. But I'm saying, like, really, she was like the mascot for his company, for like, for if he was Bird Studios or not. But I don't know.
Yep. It's Bird Studio.
Yeah, she was kind of the mascot for a while.
I mean, he gets that name because Tori, the Tori part of his name means bird.
Yes. By the way, speaking of mascots, we should talk about what's on Toriyama's shoulder there.
Yep, his manga icon.
This robot Toriyama.
Yeah, well, it's more like a gas mask.
No, I know. I'm saying that's what his actual name is, Jacob. Robot Toriyama.
Oh, nice.
So let's see, if you look at the hand, it's literally you're right. It does look like a gas mask, but apparently the idea, he's like a manga drawing machine. The man was like a machine with his output being the idea.
Yep, I can see that.
Yeah.
He did mention that he was like not in the public eye very much.
Yeah, that's the thing. I like that there's a very humble quality to Toriyama. I always kind of got the feeling of where the fact that essentially that gas mask looking design was really, that's how he saw himself. He was very much, he was the work before he was the man. He was very. Here's the thing: if we look at the real life parallels within the work and the man, there's a lot of Toriyama in his work. I get the sense, based on how he caricatured himself and just reading the manga, it really does feel like He was the Doctor Slump character. Now I know the character's not. I don't. The character's not technically named Doctor Slump, but he always wears the hat with Slump on it. He's very much supposed to be the Doctor Slump in question. Senbi Norimaki, basically the character, the creator of kind of the Doctor Frankenstein-esque creator of Aurelia. The scientific inventor guy like that. The shorts, kind of schlubby kind of looking guy. So so there's that. The fact that Toriyama was an animal lover, which is why we have so many anthropomorphic animal characters within all of his manga.
Makes sense.
He loved vehicles. He loved vehicles. His father was a mechanic, so there's a little bit of Miyazaki in there. There's a lot of planes and motorcycles.
Which also explains all the vehicles in his work.
Yep, and also gives us the whole capsule design idea, the whole Dino Caps, Capsule Corp stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yep, and here's the thing. So at his core, there's very much kind of like a youthful, humble quality, very much like Goku in terms of he doesn't need the credit, doesn't need the glory. He's very much, he just wants to kind of. Here's the thing. He's not really doing it for the artfulness per se, but he's just doing it because it's fun and it feels natural to him. But you get a sense that while he has the youthful exuberance because he was kind of a wonderkin, there's also a lot of Master Roshi in a sense of humor. You can kind of feel there's a lot of Master Roshi there. We know this for a fact, but I'm saying it very much feels like Master Roshi was a conduit to. There's the quiet guy in the room having the biggest sense of humor.
Yeah, I can kind of see that. And, like you always said, like there's always like bits of every character in these, like bits of yourself in each character you create.
Yeah.
So who knows what part of Master Roshi Toriyama is, but but I can definitely kind of see that.
Well, he did have an attractive wife. We can settle on that. So I think we have the answer to certain questions there.
It's like I don't know what Toriyama's wife looks like.
Yeah, I saw her like this. There's this little documentary, a little essay someone did on Toriyama. She was pretty.
Huh, all right. I don't.
At least I think so. I think she was kind of pretty. I don't know.
I mean, I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
It's like, and Kogias, do you either have a favorite character that Akira Toriyama created?
So many. Oh god, so many.
I mean, no, there's a lot of obvious answers for that.
Toriyama, I don't know how much it was like a press thing, but he one of the last things he said Piccolo was his favorite character.
I mean, Piccolo is a good, like the new Piccolo, like the.
Well, that's the thing. It sounds like he was doing press, like an interview for Dragon Ball Super Hero. So I don't know how much of it was like a diplomatic. Hey, Piccolo, watch the movie. But I don't know. I think there's credence for Piccolo being his favorite character, given that Piccolo has had a lot of growth, a lot of development, and is very much a fan favorite, and also has a great deal of pathos.
So not the original Demon King Piccolo.
Well, I think it's supposed to be Piccolo Jr., but for all I know, maybe it's a little bit of everything. Maybe I would imagine that would be why. Because think about it, that's a huge transition point in the storytelling for Dragon Ball. We introduced like this character who is literally bigger than life with Demon King Piccolo. He was like legit. He was like the biggest threat Goku ever goes up against, and then spawns. The other is the next biggest threat that he can go up against.
Like, yeah, if only we knew at that point what would eventually happen.
Exactly. So I don't know. I mean, even at the end there, I mean, Goku, he's very merciful towards Piccolo Jr. because he wants to fight him again, and that very much it's Goku kind of redeeming an enemy, or at least the hint that he has redeemed this enemy, or he is on a path of redeeming this enemy. So,
and he eventually becomes one of his stalwart allies.
Yes, I mean because of that, I think there was a lot of depth like factored into the Piccolo character, which I think Toriyama probably saw early on. I'd like to think.
It's like Kogias himself says Vegeta, Piccolo, Frieza, and Tien.
I guess to break a few of those down. Vegeta's probably the right. I mean, how can you not? Vegeta's he's perfect. Every way he's perfect. I mean, as a kid, I can't tell you how many times I would just like to play my action figures, just in chair like Kakarot, just
Kakarot.
Just always so it's the ticked off spoiled prince. So Kakarot, you spoiled idiot.
It's like, how long did it take? Speaking of which, how long did it take you to realize that most of the characters' names are puns?
Not long. I mean, I'm trying to. trying to remember who's the main character was that really like occurs to you with the here's like most of them were like food puns if you look at the
Yeah.
character names in Dragon Ball.
Yeah. So that tells me Vegeta was hungry a lot. I mean not Vegeta. Like Toriyama was hungry when he
Well,
wrote.
but you know Vegeta was always hungry too, but still, you're right though. Toriyama was.
It's like feed Toriyama.
We know where he got it from. It's like that Tony Robbins gag from Family Guy. It's Toriyama. you know, Toriyama hungry. He's like extends the jaw and he eats the good characters.
Yeah, but I mean, so many characters are named after food.
Yeah, but also other gags too. Like for example, Bulma's family. They're all named after underwear.
Yep.
Bloomers, Briefs. Doctor Briefs, Trunks. I forget what her mom's first name was, but it's probably something like that.
Like one of their daughters' name is Bola.
Yeah, Bola, which is essentially bra.
Yep. Let's see. Obviously, Vegeta or vegetable, which is also the name of the planet and his father.
And also, here's the Namekians, though. For the most, at least the original Namekians in Dragon. Well, I mean, like not Namekians, but Demon King Piccolo and his offspring, all like instruments. Piccolo, piano was his little toady, this little like number two guy. All of his kids, there's tambourine, cymbal, and drum.
And let's see, Gohan is actually the Japanese word for rice.
Mm-hmm. Chi-Chi, well, to put it delicately, Chi-Chi's milk.
Yeah.
To put it delicately.
Yep. All right, let's see. Let's see. Let's don't get any start on Bibbidi Bobbidi and Boo.
Yeah, so there's a lot of name puns there. But I mean, in terms of anime fans like favorites, there. I mean, again, Vegeta, Piccolo. I mean, again, Sabat was king in the Dragon Ball franchise. Let's be honest.
And of course, Frieza, which is a play on Freezer.
Mm-hmm. Tien, I think, what is it? Tien like a stalk or something? Like Tien's like some sort of like.
That I do not know.
I think Tien's like also Chiaotzu. Chiaotzu might be like I don't know. It's supposed to be chowder. Or is it supposed to be like some sort of soup? I don't know. Anyway.
Not to mention Kame House. Kame is the Japanese word for turtle.
Oh yeah, the whole turtle hermit thing that goes hand in hand. Like that one, there's no hiding that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, Tien Shinhan though, man, seriously, Tien Shinhan, great arc of a character. Just Tien's awesome, and we underutilized him so much in Dragon Ball Z, and that's kind of a runner with Toriyama notoriously.
He benched a lot of characters in Z, essentially.
So here's the thing. So they talk about the man's writing style. He was very notorious in Dragon Ball Z for especially Z, but I think maybe a little bit in Dragon Ball. I think Dragon Ball there was more into kind of self-discovery and kind of like inventing the style, but Z was like when people are kind of seeing through it a little bit here. Is that Toriyama famously would write himself in the corners all the time, and that's why he took such unexpected directions as well, where he didn't plan out the arcs a lot. In Dragon Ball, he basically had fun writing and drawing the manga, and he had no real end game. And sometimes you have like a vague concept of an end game, and then you have other times where he's editor or someone with historically, when they did the Android saga, the androids ultimately were just supposed to be 19 and 20. Like the Dr. Gero android and then the fat one.
So 18 wasn't even a thought.
Exactly. 17 and 18 were basically because the editor wasn't happy. Like, no one's going to be happy with these two being like the big bad androids. You got to make them cooler. And said, all right, fine. I'll reveal 17 and 18. So that's what happened there. And also the whole thing of like things were supposed to end with things were supposed to end with the end of the Cell saga, but again, people got restless. Basically Toriyama wanted a break. Okay, you can take a break, but you have to come back.
And which brought us back to Saiyaman.
And that's the thing. He gave everyone Gohan. Well, look, I think I don't want to bring back Goku. I want Gohan there. And that was like a thing. Well, you have to bring back Goku. Like, all right, I'll bring back Goku.
He sometimes gave in to fan demands.
Yeah, man, that was a thing throughout his life, though. Man, that's why we're stuck with Dragon Ball Daimia.
It's like, and the thing is, like, a lot of times he just straight up forgot characters existed,
like Launch.
Like Launch, yeah. Sometimes straight and sometimes just straight up made things up, and that somehow coincidentally tied back into things previously, and they're like, did you do that on purpose? And he's like, yeah, totally.
It's a thing of like, Tien is like, hey, he's like technically Tien, like he's like one of the only survivors of like Super Boo's like big awesome like world killing attack. It's like one of the very few people survived. We just completely forgot about. We never like checked back in with Tien Shinhan.
Oh god,
Like, that's what I'm talking about. I was like, literally everyone besides her, everyone besides Hercule and everyone.
Otherwise known as Mr. Satan.
Yeah, so basically everyone besides Mr. Satan, the dog, and Tien Shinhan get killed. We never mentioned. Oh wait, Tien Shinhan's still around.
It's like, oh yeah.
Yep. Well, we then kill him off and we blow up the whole planet. But still, it's just besides the point. It's the fact that before, it's like, he was very much alive.
Oh god.
I think Chiaotzu too. I think Chiaotzu. And here's the sad thing. Here's the really sad thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Launch had the hots for Tien, and we never really got those two crazy kids together.
Aw.
It's a shame.
Yep. It just goes to show you that like he pretty much was just like riding by the seat of his pants kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
we loved him for it though.
Making it up as he goes along, but the fact that he was just so good at it that we kept coming back for more.
Mm-hmm.
Just tells you how good he was.
Yeah.
So yeah. What so we pretty much talked about like his style, his background, and everything, but what we know of it anyway.
Yeah, I saw you to mention just in the development of Dragon Ball. Just shows you just how kind of it works here. Where Toriyama's just like playing around. He had like this He had basically two prototypes or two kind of like unofficial pilots for Dragon Ball. He did Dragon Boy and he did the Adventures of Tong Po. Essentially, there's a lot of it's like Dragon Boy was just basically the core concept of like how Goku and Bulma meet, and like okay, young kid, teenage girl, and they're going on adventures. Yeah, it's essentially where the core concept of Dragon Ball comes from, and then
of course with inspiration from Journey to the West.
Well, that's the thing, Jacob. So it starts there, but then that gets factored in after these two pilots. So you have Dragon Boy, it was where we get the whole Dragon Ball kind of like namesake. Adventures of Tong Po essentially is where we get into like Toriyama doing a lot of his design stuff, and that's where like the designs get a little sharpened. And same exact premise, only it's like it's a little bit more of like the adventure vibe and flesh. Like, what would they do? And then it's like, okay, I need a new concept to essentially replace or kind of go on from Doctor Slump. I'll develop this concept, and I gotta add a little something there.
Mm-hmm.
Enter again him parroting and kind of like homaging some of the great stories. Journey to the West, and that's where we get the monkey angle. And then we combine the design elements, and we eventually, after initially a monkey pass, we'll give him a tail, but we won't make the kid a monkey. Well, at least not on the surface. When the full moon comes out, but not
where monkey.
Yeah.
It's like so, and let's not forget his other contributions to other things too. Like he was responsible for in the world of games too. Like he did the designs for the Dragon Quest series of video games,
mm-hmm.
and also famously Chrono Trigger as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying we can't really talk about his other accomplishments without mentioning those. Like clearly, like Dragon Quest is a series that he's worked on since the very first installment, and one of the most influential RPGs in gaming history.
Oh yeah.
And obviously Chrono Trigger, one of the most acclaimed RPGs of the SNES era, and still to this day. So it's like, and all of them have been, and technically those games came here long before, but Dragon Ball was ever really that popular in the States. Like that was like some of people's first exposure to Toriyama's work.
It's funny how that works.
Yep, there's a lot of work with dragons, it seems.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of funny because his work on Dragon Quest, his work on Dragon Ball and things like that is actually what got him his work on Dragon Quest. Because he wasn't the big superstar at the time. Well, he was popular, but he wasn't as huge, as he is now, or was, I should say. So they got him to work on Dragon Quest for providing designs, and it helped bolster that game. It's like so. he's touched all kinds of fields in that regard beyond the Dragon Ball games. And so I think that's a good transition to other things, like the impact he had on everyone, pretty much everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, since his passing, like all sorts of creators have been like really tipping their hats to the man. I mean, like there's Rebecca Sugar and the Steven Universe crew. There's been pretty much all of his anime kind of brethren, like the guys behind One Piece. I think Naruto, maybe One Piece. I'm not sure about One Piece, but I know Naruto.
I mean, I'd honestly be surprised if Eiichiro Oda didn't like put out at least some kind of condolence or something.
But the Shonen Jump, they owe a huge debt of gratitude to Toriyama. He very much put him on the map and kept people coming back weekly, and that kind of like brought other manga talents there, and basically made such like an all-star lineup.
Oh yeah,
you have like Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Naruto, and One Piece. Like that's like your three biggies right then. Yu Yu Hakusho. It's like
that was with Shonen Jump too.
I'm pretty, I believe Yu Yu Hakusho. Yeah, Yu Yu Hakusho was in Shonen Jump along with on Dragon Ball Z. Here's the thing: at a certain point, they all intersected, but at different times, like certain mangas would run out, or they put a different one in there. I don't know if Rurouni Kenshin ever made the cut for Shonen Jump. I don't recall, but those four did.
Well, Yu Yu Hakusho is on the Shonen Jump app.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Yu Yu Hakusho's there. I meant Rurouni. I don't know if Rurouni Kenshin was there, but
it actually. It is on there. It is on the Shonen Jump app.
Huh.
So I'll start reading that too.
There you go.
So yeah, Toriyama's influence and outreach, and obviously, like a lot of people like look up to him, and the reason they got into being mangaka in the first place.
Yep.
And a lot of people here a lot of people in the States are even inspired by his work, and like you can barely see anything nowadays that doesn't have a touch of his influence there. Like people or at least referencing, parodying that kind of thing. Like not even just terms of visual terms of like storytelling techniques, things like that. His influence is far-reaching, even out here far into other countries worldwide.
Oh yeah.
So,
I mean,
go on.
Sorry. I guess getting to like kind of the last things, like Toriyama was busy until the end. With Super is very much like a revitalization. A lot of risk for him, I'd imagine. Like, any creative, I think, would be very much hesitant to come back after all this time and risk diluting where you left things. But really, it was just an excuse to do more Dragon Ball after being gone for a few decades. Just like I missed it. Essentially, is probably what I was thinking. Like, I missed it. I want to come back, and you got all these. They always got so much guff for. Yeah,
part of it was actually Toei bringing him back. It's like they were doing it, and they're like wanted him to do it. Yeah, someone else actually does the Super manga. Someone named Toyotaro actually does all the work for that.
Yeah,
I mean, I think he provided the basic story, I believe, though.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that he previously gotten so much guff for not taking part in Dragon Ball GT and everything, and GT was not an adaptation of his work. I mean, like Toriyama, I think he did.
He created the name. He created the name, basically.
Created the name, and I think he might have done some covers. That's about it. But I think that's probably as much involvement as he had.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't really involved in the anime in pretty much throughout the entirety of the anime, until basically Super came along, where he wrote Battle of the Gods, Resurrection F, and the other movies.
Yeah. But even looking at something like Dragon Ball GT, just for a moment, I think it does show it's like it's kind of a tribute to the fandom, in which it's like it just demonstrated to Toriyama they are hungry for more Dragon Ball, and look what happens when you don't have your fingerprints on this.
Yeah, they didn't have a blueprint to work from.
Yeah, and again, it's kind of like it's kind of this. Toriyama gave us so many great morals through Dragon Ball, and it's interesting that we see like kind of moral hero, but success with an unending appetite. That this is why he's coming back for Daimon. Well, this is why kind of get the ball rolling on Daimon and everything. So it's like to the end, he was standing by his creations. He was like there's something there. He says I don't know if Daimon's going to be any good or not, but who knows.
Like, what kind of morals do you want to highlight in his work?
I again the big thing I always want to highlight with Toriyama is the tournament saga was always like everyone lauds Yu Yu Hakusho for the Dark Tournament, which is completely earned. But even I think by the admission of the guys who did, by the creator of Yu Yu Hakusho, they probably I think it's been substantiated that again Dragon Ball kind of set the stage for doing a tournament. Then Yu Yu Hakusho kind of like measured up to it in a really interesting, unique way that wasn't just like the same tournament style again. And I always loved anime fans kind of somewhat bring it up tangentially. The whole Jackie Chan's favorite was Goku. Toriyama had a lot of reverence for martial arts, like your Bruce Lee's and your Jackie Chan's. And I think that showed in the martial arts tournament. And basically, the big moral there being Master Roshi, he disguised himself as Jackie Chun, the parody of Jackie Chan. And one of my favorite morals was basically why the heck did he do that? And we had it mentioned, I believe, I forget if it was mentioned to Nam, I think he told it to Nam after he had his this really great moment where he helped out Nam. He explained to him that the whole reason why he's doing this is to make sure his students don't get cocky with the victory, to make sure they always like keep wanting to get like their hearts are in the right place. If they do all this training just to win a contest and they win, they'll get lazy, they'll get complacent, and they're never going to want for anything again, or it's going to go with their heads and they're going to lose. And what's the end result going to be? So the fact that he went to these lengths to basically to beat them, so they would always be chasing like there's always someone better idea. So I think Toriyama had like a really great, for a guy who doesn't always have the endings figured out, like these tournaments, he did figure out, he knew exactly what the end points of these tournaments were going to be. He knew that it has to be,
always strive to be better.
Yeah, the whole always strive to be better moral. So the fact that like Goku's victory was a very earned thing, and we basically did kind of like two Rocky movies with these tournaments getting to that point, just like it's wonderful, but also like we with the fact of look at the Red Ribbon Army arc. Goku, he's trying to avenge. So let me rephrase that. Goku, he has a very, in a sense, Goku can be a selfish character at times, but not selfish in a mean way, not selfish in like an unsympathetic way, but selfish in that through Dragon Ball Z is very much like, hey, I'm not going to kill Frieza. I want to fight him again. I'm going to give him like mercy here. So maybe someday he'll come back. There's like a selfishness. And honestly, the better example, more than Frieza, Vegeta. Logically, he should have killed Vegeta at the end of the Saiyan arc. He should have, but he didn't because he wanted to fight him again someday. And this is a guy who's killed his friends and everything. So again, there's something somewhat a little selfish there. But just you go back to it, suddenly Dragon Ball, like, hey, Goku wanted the 4-star Dragon Ball that was representative of his grandfather, and in the pursuit of this thing, Upa's father gets murdered by the Red Ribbon Army. He's getting into it with the Red Ribbon Army, and it's the fact that in that instant, his in quote selfish goal, I just want the 4-star ball, and he keeps saying I don't really want the rest of the Dragons. I just want the 4-star ball, and I just keep taking from these Red Ribbon Army guys who want to he wants to take these for terrible things. He ends up like trying to undo the damage that's happened because of this quest, and trying to now he's sacrificing what he wants. Like I want to use these Dragon Balls to revive my friend's father. That's what I'm saying. There's these are the morals that I loved in Dragon Ball. Like, okay, like Goku's like doing this for noble intentions and like kind of these great earmarks in the journey. Like he's climbing Korin Tower, the unconquerable thing, and like basically we did the Kung Fu Panda thing way before we had Kung Fu Panda, where he goes for the special water, and the special water it's a placebo. Like this is what I'm talking about. So I love these are some of my these were always some of my favorite morals from Dragon Ball, particularly like the water and the the Jackie Chun thing. And again,
Goku
also yeah, he's got it right here. Yeah, this is great too.
was responsible for his grandfather's death is pretty messed up, but he did name his son after him.
It was also such a great moment in which they chose to reveal this, where they kept that secret through the whole from Goku for the whole duration of Dragon Ball, but only after Vegeta turned into the giant ape did Goku put two and two together. It was like that was like the crushing like realization during like the battle of his life of just like, oh God, I killed him. I killed my grandfather.
Yep. But obviously, we know he never meant to do so.
Yeah. You know what? Just something really lovely. I don't know how much of this I forget. I don't know if this is in the manga or not for Dragon Ball Super because I'm blind. I have the manga translated into the series on that, but there was this lovely moment in Dragon Ball Super that was a subtle thing. Goku, he's before he brings Frieza back, because they need him for like a tournament. He goes to fortune teller Baba to do it because Baba does like the whole day pass thing. Baba, she, from the Red Ribbon Army arc, essentially Goku had to fight Fortune Teller Baba and her men and basically he was able to fight his grandfather. And Goku, again, the grown-up Goku now, like just waiting like for Baba to show up so he can do the whole Frieza thing in Dragon Ball Super. He's reenacting. It looks like he's training from a distance. When you look really carefully, it's like he's using muscle memory to fight his grandfather again.
Ah.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, Toriyama, I like to think that I don't know if that was from the manga or not, because that's a detail. I don't know if there was like we didn't see any flashbacks or anything in the anime, so I don't know if that was like how much spelled out that could be in a manga. But still, tangentially or not, just him being involved in that's a lovely little gesture, man. I don't know. There's something really sweet about that.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
And is there really anything else we should say regarding this?
Well, let me round it out with this. So Toriyama, again, he was always looking to the future. He again he was like applying like the new way they're animating like Dragon Ball superhero, like the whole the kind of the game, basically the video game look in kind of the 2D CG looking kind of like thing. It looks very much like how they do in the games now. Is kind of how they animated the last feature for Dragon Ball superhero.
Hmm.
The animation style. I don't know if that's being brought into like the Dragon Ball Super show as it keeps going on. I'm not sure, but thankfully Toriyama was still working until the end. He was very much again robot Toriyama as we've seen by the little icon on his shoulder there.
You could. It seems like he still definitely enjoyed his work, though.
Absolutely, I think he was like working with a smile on his face underneath that robotic exterior. But I guess the round it out, I want to say this. So Toriyama in relation to death is a very interesting thing because the 4-star ball is always a tribute to Grandpa Gohan. And in throughout Dragon Ball, especially Dragon Ball, but even just Dragon Ball Z and everything, is that there's always been a reverence for mentors and the elderly. The people that we made big differences in our lives,
Even people like Roshi.
especially people like Roshi. And there's always like the thing of like the fact that we never aside from the very iconic moment in Dragon Ball, which of course we did resurrection as we are wont to do. Roshi, we've kept him around. We haven't killed him off of natural causes in Dragon Ball at all. I think that kind of goes to show something. But it's the fact that looking at one of the images on our tribute, on our kind of our in loving memory image here.
Yeah.
Famous image, Goku, waving goodbye as he has the angel wings, which again, technically he really shouldn't have, but it's an artistic choice. With the halo and everything. Of course, there's a Funko of this and everything. I love the Funko of this, by the way. Which I'm sure is probably, I'd imagine that would be selling out like crazy. Just kind of the way the machine works there. But that moment, that moment of Goku, like actually dying, like for the second time, which we can't bring him back from, at least not easily. Um, It's
Because,
Goku.
yeah, because you can't redo a wish from the Dragon Balls.
Exactly. Yeah.
It was like one of the few ways that Toriyama came up with to keep the stakes.
Yeah. I mean, think of it. It was always like a bold and gutsy thing. Like the end of like the first essentially, the first arc of Dragon Ball, like the arc, not even like the full like saga, but like the first arc of like, well, Goku gets killed by Piccolo.
Yep.
To say this, like to stop Raditz, but he gets kill off our hero in the first arc.
Yeah, at least in the Z arc.
Yeah. Anyway, so what I'm getting at here is that just the second time with the cell death, which again essentially was initially intended to be kind of the end of things. It's Goku accepting death with a smile, like leaving the world in the good hands of the friends that he's inspired in a myriad of ways. Even Vegeta, he's Vegeta, Piccolo, his son, like so many people. Goku turned almost all of his. I mean, now especially with Super, I mean, he's turned. I mean, pretty much everyone but Cell. Everyone but Cell's just a jerk. Everyone but Cell has kind of been redeemed somewhat, if you ever look at it, with all the foes that
well,
Goku's faced.
well, considering what Cell did and basically absorbing an entire city's worth of people in a terrifying way, I don't think he deserved it.
Yeah. But to be fair, Goku's kind of tried with Cell, though, and Cell's just like, nope, he ain't having it.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is the fact that, if we measure things almost in like that Jim Henson kind of way of like leaving the world better than the way we found it, and that's the fact that Goku is just inspired good and he's brought out good in so many people. And I think that to Toriyama's life, he's inspired so many great creative people, and one could say rivals in his own industry.
Yeah.
At least rivals are like the next generation who would be in competition with supplanting him. They all love him. They all love what he did. They're so inspired by him. Like the fact they've changed the world in a myriad of ways. They've made the world so diverse and challenged us with so many great stories.
Like, the world would definitely not be the same without Dragon Ball and by extension Toriyama himself.
Exactly. So I like to think he's got wings. He's got a halo somewhere. He's flying, and he's gonna be treated to a good meal, a lot of meals, and maybe every pun he's ever made. I would like to think is waiting for him wherever he's going. Every pun.
And in the afterlife in Japan, he definitely has earned it.
Yep, King Kai waiting up there with him. Who knows?
Cell is weird because he sounds like Plankton.
Well, that's true.
It's like I've actually seen a video where they overlaid images of Cell with quotes from Plankton.
But Goku, I went to college.
Essentially, that's it.
Yep.
So yeah, the world was a better place with Toriyama in it. It definitely is passing its cast a shadow on it.
Yeah.
But I think the way people came together, I think it pretty much lit a torch to light the way it's like he still lives on in the hearts of his family, his fans, and the characters he's created, and the characters he's brought to life, and basically all that he's brought to the world.
Yep. Put your hands in the air, folks. Give me your energy.
Yep. So, thank you for everything, Toriyama-san.
Keep on drawing.
Oh yeah. Thank you, Code Geass, Little Blue. We had Teddy here briefly. Thank you all, over 9,000.
Yep. We love you over 9,000.
Oh yeah. A better way to end.